it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we're working on Nature's Notebook. And a lot of times I'll do my inside liners at the same time I do my cover, but I'm actually going to add a feature to the inside liners, so I waited to do it till the very end. So we are going to put, I'm going to set that aside for a second, a very large pocket on both sides with a flap to close it. And let me tell you what this is. This is 8 inches by 9 3/8. So it's 8 inches by 9 3/8, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. And I haven't put the tape on. I was going back and forth about whether or not I was going to do this, partly because I wanted to make sure I had enough paper left, and I do. So I'm going to go ahead and add this feature, which I think is nice. Because I'm using 2 DCEs, I had enough paper. That may not have been the case with a bundle. Or I might have had enough paper, but not enough large pieces. Really makes a big difference. Okay. I did that wrong. I should have taped the bottom first and then the top, but we'll live. It'll all work out. Okay. All right, I'm going to burnish that in place. And then we're going to apply it to the inside liner, and we're going to be sure to stay away from this hinge point score line here, because we don't want it to catch the pocket on it. Okay. Looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pick tool and remove the backing. And this is a rather large pocket, so it is going to be a little bit difficult to handle. So you may opt to only remove part of the tape, turn it over, and then peel the tape off after you've laid it down. That's just not my style. I typically just remove it and just be careful before I place it. So it's really up to you. Okay, so let me think about this. I think I want to turn it this way because part of what I'm trying to do is make sure it's even left to right. And I'm going to give myself about 1/4 inch from the hinge. Okay, I'm just, right now, only the bottom of the hinge is attached, or bottom of the pocket is attached, because I want to make sure the edges are good. Okay, that looks good. All right, it's all pressed into place. That is the pocket on the front, and then we're going to do the same thing in the back. But before we move on, we're going to go ahead and add the closure for this flap, and I don't have tape on it, sorry. This is, I'll give you the measurements. So you're gonna basically do 2 of each, one for the front, one for the back. This is 4.5 inches by 8 3/8. So it's 4.5 inches by 8 3/8. You're gonna score a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. And I say I wrote it on here, but I just double checked it, and that is correct. And now we'll lay this in, and then we're going to add a magnet to keep it closed. I think I might actually add 2 magnets on each on the outside. Okay. Looks like I might have, yeah. This is actually a little bit wider than the pocket, so I'm going to trim it. And I just took about a 1/16 of an inch off, and now I'm going to test it again, and now it's the right width. Good grief. Can't seem to hang on to anything. So I'm lining up my sides and looking for an even border, pressing it into place. Okay, that's in. Now we're ready for our magnets. And like I said, I think I'm gonna do 4. So I'm gonna do 1 on each side. And I'm gonna steer clear of the edge so I don't have to work so hard to get my paper to lay down. And it's only gonna be holding these 2 flaps together. I don't have lots of density here, so I am gonna use tape over my magnet. Okay, and then we're gonna add the opposing magnet. Oh, look at that. I'm too far down. It's not gonna cover up. So it's a good thing I checked it first before I put the second magnet in. But I need to back up. I'm too close to the edge of this paper. So what would make sense, or more sense, is to place this magnet and then find the location down here. Let's see if that's gonna be far enough. And I remember testing this when I had actually did the measurements. That should work. Okay, now I'm going to move these up a little. This comes up pretty easy because I have not burnished it. Sorry about that, guys. A lot of times when I'm doing a flap like this, I mean, I can do it the hard way, which is what I just did. The other way is to close it and draw a line. And then you know where the edge of your paper is, or the edge of the flap is, and that you need to inset from there. But I did not do that. Well, I did do it, but the lines are not in the right place. So it's no good. I think I did it in the planning process, but you need to do it after you actually get it attached. Dum-dum. Okay. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for this album to be over. I feel like I've been working on it forever. Okay. And these are far enough away from the edge that I can easily cover them with paper, which we'll do next. Okay. So for this side, I'm going to use the yellow, and then for the back side, I'm going to use an orange. And we are going to do a pocket liner, which will help smooth out some of this, some of what's going on here. So after we get these liners, or these pockets done, we're going to go ahead and install our pages, and then I'm going to go back and do some embellishing and a walkthrough, so we're almost done. Oh, that's not good. Not good. Let me try that one more time. This is tough because it's hard to see all the edges. Okay. There we go. Now what I have here, and I gotta look back at page, I'm gonna look back at page 1. Yeah, okay. So I'm pulling page 1 back in because I just want this to flow smoothly. And I think, yeah, I'm gonna use this for the top of the flap, and then I've got my liner set aside too. Now I trimmed this flap a little bit, so I need to look and see if I need to, if that needs to affect, yeah. Just a tiny sliver off. Remember, we trimmed it ever so slightly. Part of the reason I'm ready for this project to be over is my desk is a mess. And it needs some attention. Okay, it is directional, so pay attention to which way is up. So on the back page, we are going to use the same pocket, but we are not going to decorate it the same. It's going to match what's going on page 8. So I think that is a really pretty spread. You got room for photos here, and then of course you got room inside the pocket. And then here's what I've decided to do for the liner. I'm going to do the black down here. Like so, and then I'm going to do these beautiful butterflies right here. Let's start with this. My dog just came back to see me. She's done barking at everybody. I've mentioned it before, but now that we're coming to the end, I'll mention it again. My next project is going to be Vagabond, and I am going to do both, use both the Sir Vagabond and Lady Vagabond in one project, which is going to be a little bit different than what I've done before. It's not exactly a folio, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be what I would describe as a flip-flop book. And of course you're going to have to tune in to see what that means. So there's your teaser. Okay, let's dry fit this real quick. Make sure it's trimmed out to fit. And it's actually a little tight, so I'm going to take a trim a little off one of these edges so that the flap will close freely. And we're going to test that one more time. And then it's also a little too tall because we had trimmed that flap down. So that should do it. So the reason my top closure was too wide is because I did the math based on the size of this pocket. And of course, when I do the math, I don't take into account the fact that some of the paper is consumed when you actually put a score line in. And that's why it's slightly off. And that's why it's always really good to dry fit. So if you took the full length and then subtracted an inch, a ½ inch off each side, then that would have fit perfectly. But it's not just a ½ inch, it's a ½ inch plus a fraction of an inch that is consumed by the score line itself. So it's always good, especially on pockets, to measure. The more score lines that are involved in a feature, the more likely that it's not a precise measurement. Something to keep in mind as you're designing your own books. Okay. You want to take off your excess glue so you don't accidentally glue your flap shut. Okay, now the last thing is going to be an insert. And let's see, this is 10.5. I'm going to make this 10 by 8.5. Okay, so that's 10 by 8.5. Okay, so that is going to be too tall, so I'm going to make that 8 by 8.5. So now it's 8 by 8.5. And I like that. It's going to go right in here. And it's going to stick out just ever so much. So I'm going to write that down because I do need to add that to the cut list. 8.5 by 8. And then I'll come back and cover this, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to finish by putting in the pocket in the back and then adding our pages. Okay. And this one I did manage to get tape on. Good. Okay. So again, I'm coming about 1/4 inch off this hinge area, like so, and I am going to turn it sideways so I can see my edges. And again, this is 8 by 9 3/8, 8 by 9 3/8, and you're going to score 3 of the 4 sides. Okay, there you go. That's in. And then, ooh, that's tight. That's a snug pocket. Work this a little bit. Okay, now this is, I gotta make sure I'm right side up. I'm not. Okay, so this is the cover for this pocket. Oh. Shoot. That's wrong. We got to put magnets down. Oh my gosh, I was in such a hurry. Like I said, I'm just so ready to be done with this album. Good grief. Sorry about that. So we still need magnets, dummy. All right, let's go ahead and add, we can add this real quick while that's drying. Then we'll come back and add our magnets. So I do want to check real quick if they're the right width, and it looks like I need to trim this down a little bit too. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch, but I'm going to check real quick, see how that's working. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. Darn it. Sorry about that, guys. Now I'm going to be careful when I place this because I definitely don't want to press my flap into that glue. But I also want to make sure that the edges are lined left to right. Or up and down. It still needs to be turned. A little too wide. It's so hard to see black on black. Okay, there it is. There it is. Okay, now we're going to remember to put the magnets on this side first and then locate the others. The other thing I noticed about placing magnets with tape is if you use tape, you can go a lot closer to the edge because the tape will hold that paper down on top of the magnet. Where if you're just using a bare magnet, the paper wants to just rise to the magnet level. So it's just something to think about too if you're as you're placing your magnets and deciding how you want to lay them in. Okay. Okay, now I should be able to press these into place pretty easily because the magnets themselves will hold the paper up. Yeah, okay, now we can add this. Sorry about the false start, guys. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now it's kind of snug, so I'm just going to use my bone folder and just kind of lift it and train it a little bit because you want a little bit of a bow so that it's easy to get things in and out. Okay, now originally I designed this to go here, but I want to pull page 8 in and just double check that I'm happy with that look. And this is page 8. So page 8 is going to lie right next to it like so. Is that right? Yes, it is. I don't know, what do you guys think? I think I need to find that pattern. And guess what? Here it is, right here. I like this better. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to use this instead, and I'll use the butterfly on the inside. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Looks good. For some reason, I think I only trimmed out the top, the A side, and not the insert and the B side of the flap. So we'll do that real quick. And then I'm going to pause for a second and do some housekeeping before we actually put our pages in, because my desk is looking pretty destroyed. Okay. So because I already trimmed this out, I am going to use this here, and I like the look. It is directional, so you might want to pay attention to the words on the back, in the background. And it looks like I need to trim this too. It's in the hinge. Okay, let's see. Is that going to do it? Yes, it is. I don't even know what I try with my fingernails. The older I get, the thicker they get. They just don't seem to work like they used to. Okay. And then I think I'm going to do the same thing for this liner here as I did on the front, which is use that black background. And I know I've got some of that paper. Just have to locate it and then trim something down. So let's see if I can't find something. Here it is. Here's some right here. Okay. Now, usually I pay attention to make sure that the orientation's right, but with these words, I think it feels okay to go this direction. But it's a preference, and by the way, there's enough paper to go the other way if you want to. You can trim it out. But I'm just going to use it like it is. Okay, so I'm trimming it out, so I know it's deep enough, but I also want to make sure it's going to fit into the pocket, so I need to make sure it's slim enough to fit inside. It needs a little bit more. That should do it. It's very snug. I'm going to take off a little more. I think it'll be too hard to try to get it in there while also dealing with wet glue. Okay. As usual, I'm going to leave my leading edge dry. Okay, and if you recall, we did an insert, and it is 8 by 8.5. And that's going to fit just like so. Okay, so I'm going to decorate the mats, but I'm going to do that offline. And we're ready now to add our pages. So I'm going to take a quick break, clean up my desktop, and then when we come back, we are going to install the pages. Okay, I've straightened up my desk a little bit so I can think straight. And I went through and made sure that my pages are in the order that I want to add them to the book. And I'm also double checking the orientation. This is up, this is down. This is a butterfly I'm saving to go on the cover after we get our pages installed. So let's go ahead and start with page 1. Get my pick tool. Okay, I'm just looking for an even border, top, bottom. Looks good. Okay. Okay, page 2. I'm sorry, this is page 3 and 4. The second pocket page. 3 and 4. Okay. Last page. The last pocket page. All right, there we go. Okay, so our book is finished. And I am going to do some additional embellishing, but you will see that in the walkthrough, and I'll point those features out. That is the main body of the album. And again, I'll add some embellishments, and I'll talk about that in the walkthrough. Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create, and that is the inside liners and the page installation.